Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Never before in the history of sports podcasts have two men brought you opinion and analysis like these two. They speak for a city that's desperate for wins and titles, not whining and travesty. You might not agree with what they have to say, but you'll defend their right to say it. Sports fans across the world, from Chicago, Illinois, this is the Mac and Reed Show.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on the Barroom Network. Welcome in, and in case you've missed it, we've had many shows on the Barroom Network thus far. You can catch them all right here on YouTube, also on Spotify and iTunes for the audio-only versions. And don't forget to follow us on social media. Follow me at The Real Evan Mac, and follow the one and only Ross Reed for his Bears takes and for how he takes the best care of his wife. We appreciate you looking after the women in our lives, Ross. How's it going, man? What's going on? Football's back.
Football's back, just like the Bills did right now. We're gonna walk right down this podcast and nail it. The Bills are up 7-0 real quick. Real quick. Yeah, listen, because I decided to be a nice husband and put my wife on a plane to San Francisco tonight. Let's just hope that we don't get a little 5-year-old visitor popping into this feed, into this screen here. And if we do, we'll ask him over under on Justin Fields' passing yards on Sunday. He might give us a good bet. Evan's frozen there a little bit.
We have a lot to get to on the show today. We'll be talking about Bears, of course, a lot of Bears heavy show today, of course, talking about predictions for the Bears 49ers game. We'll also, of course, touch on the Arlington Heights move and how that stadium's going to be looking. And then we'll jump into the rest of the league, of course, and surprises along the way. We bid farewell to the Queen, and the royal family obsession continues. I never understood that. More on that later. But to begin, I know you're a big The Crown fan, Ross. To begin, we talk about the Chicago Bears. And, you know, this is – I'll say this. First of all, before they go and play the 49ers and host them at home at Soldier Field, which might be a little rainy. We're looking at the forecast right now. Hopefully that pushes away, and then it's a clear day over at the lakefront. But who knows? The players are prepared for anything. I'll say the injury report is looking pretty good, minus forgetting the defensive player's name. But Velus Jones is really the only one of note other than that on the injury report, nursing his hamstring for the most part. And then it's pretty clean. I think you're getting healthy at the right time. I know Lucas Patrick is pumped to be back at full speed for the most part. And this looks like, obviously, you know, you're 0-0 to start the season, and there's a lot of heavy expectations, and I feel like, you know, to address certainly the big criticism of this Bears team and roster overall is they're not predicted to be good. And we have no expectations as far as their wins-loss record, as far as Ross and I are concerned. We just want to see these guys develop, and we'll get to Dominique Foxworth's take about Justin Fields requesting a trade shortly as well, which is just hot garbage, and trying to get hits on his new fucking podcast. But, you know, impressions as far as this team and what you've seen and how you've seen them come together with a first-year head coach, first-year GM, and how you think they look going into this season. Is it kind of above your expectations, or right where you thought they'd be, or lower, Ross?
Well, I mean, listen, number one, it's extremely important that they are going into the season relatively healthy, right? Because they are a young roster, and this whole year to me is evaluation year, not only for Justin Fields at the top, but guys like Darnell Mooney, guys like Cole Kmet are going to have contracts coming up soon. David Montgomery is going to have a contract coming up soon. We got to decide if you want to pay him The guys on the offensive line are all fairly young. Outside of Lucas Patrick, really, and Cody Whitehair, those guys are the true veterans on the offensive line. And then the defense is young too, and you got to figure out what you're going to do with Roquan Smith. But you're starting two rookies in the secondary. We hope that they're both going to be stud players. So, I think we've been preaching now for a few months since we started the show on the Barroom Network that we're not really we don't really care too much about wins and losses as so much we care about progression going forward with a lot of these young guys. Right now, the Bears, depending on what gambling site you want to get them at, they're either 6 wins for the season or 6.5 wins, right? Which does not put you in the playoffs. I actually took the over on it. I put my own money on it. I think that they're at least a 7-win football team. I think they play some really shaky quarterbacks this year. I think the Bears are going to be better than people anticipate. And I think so because I'm a big fan of Luke Getsy. I think he's been one of the bright coaching stars coming out of from training camp, from mini camp to training camp to now. And I just love when he talks. I love the conviction that he has in Justin Fields, but I love the honesty that he has as well. And I just think that he's going to do a lot of great things to scheme guys open. So yes, the Bears don't have a lot of household names on offense outside of the quarterback, but I do think they're going to be able to scheme guys open, guys like Pringle, guys like Dante Pettis, who Fields has been really comfortable with throughout all of training camp and preseason. Cole Kmet should have a really big year. We just saw Dawson Knox get paid the other day. There's no reason why Cole Kmet can't get a similar contract like that if he has a big year. So I think the defense is going to be feisty. They're probably not going to necessarily rush the passer too well. But I do think they're going to be able to attack the football and really tackle a lot better than they have been. I think they're going to be a more disciplined defense, and hopefully they're going to be able to get back to some takeaways. So I still feel like the arrow's pointing up for this season. You never know in the NFL. Maybe a team can sneak in. Maybe they can sneak into that last wild card spot. But realistically, I'd be happy with the area anywhere between 7 to 8 wins this year.
Yeah, they're not going to make any noise if they make the playoffs. And again, Ross, you've touched on different than the Bears squads we've seen to recent memories too, is this schedule is a little bit softer and you play some pretty bad quarterbacks. You get after a tough and a telling probably 2-game stretch as far as hosting the Niners and then going into Green Bay and just hoping to compete at that point with Aaron Rodgers down, his man with Devontae Adams. We'll see how he performs with this new look offense. And then you go and play some cupcakes as far as the Texans and Giants, similar talent in the rosters are concerned, and then just sort of down quarterbacks. The Texans are just a mess. So that should be a win right there. And then you go in later in the season and it's really up and down from there, right? You say you have some middle of the road teams like the Patriots, and then you have some contenders like the Cowboys, and then finishing the schedule, it's those NFC North teams, obviously, that's going to really dictate if they can get into the playoffs or not. And that's really how you would evaluate them going forward too, with who's going to take over kind of after the reign of Aaron Rodgers. He came out this week just talking about how every year the NFC and every other NFC North team is talking about it's their year, and it hasn't been theirs in quite some time, as in the Lions and Vikings and Bears. But the Bears, this is all about, it's not about the wins and the losses. It's about the development of Justin Fields. Mm-hmm. And it's about him building chemistry with the offensive line, building chemistry with his running back and David Montgomery. And then like the big question is really who he's going to be able to build chemistry with as far as his weapons are concerned, as far as those guys on the outside and Darnell Mooney and then Cole Kmet. Hopefully having a big year of his own. I know Ross projects him to be like a top 10 tight end this year, which is not a super out of this world take at all. And then you're just really outside of Darnell Mooney, who's going to step up, who's going to be that second best wide receiver? Is it going to be Byron Pringle? Is it going to be Velus Jones? Is it going to be Equanimeous St. Brown, or is someone going to step up here? But most importantly, outside of course, the defense, you want to see them reclaim some of the swagger that they've had in the past. And they just had some games, especially, you think about this Niners game to tip off the season, how bad they just crumbled last year and wasted a pretty good Justin Fields performance. They just couldn't stop a nosebleed later in that game and just surrendered just touchdown after touchdown and big play after big play. And it's a tough offense. So, it does come back to Justin Fields for sure and his development and his leadership. You saw the captains are named going ahead of, this Sunday's game, and it's the guys you expect. It's going to be Justin Fields and Cody Whitehair and Robert Quinn. And then they'll rotate these captains around every week as well. But these are those leaders, the guys that you want to keep an eye on, certainly when you think of the most important Bears going into the season and then into Sunday. So as far as Sunday is concerned, if I'm looking at the Bears-Niners game, I mean, we'll talk about the Bermuda grass now. It's nice and fresh. And I know Cole Kmet is happy. He was talking about he has 5 pairs of cleats. He only wants to bring 1 to the field because you got to test that out. And players have been dogging it for so long. But what are you looking for as far as the 49ers game is concerned, Ross, in whether it be positional matchups or beyond that?
I think both teams, I think this is going to be a messy game on Sunday because of, we're expecting heavy torrential rain in the Chicagoland area. It's going to be warm. It's going to be muggy. This game is going to be won in the trenches on both sides of the football. Both teams have very shaky offensive linemen. Yes, the 49ers have Trent Brown, who's an all-pro, who's a future Hall of Famer most likely, but the rest of their offensive line is not good. They're starting a young quarterback, Trey Lance, who probably might not have George Kittle on Sunday as well. But I think it's going to be up to who's going to be able to stop the pass rush, who's going to be able to open lanes for their running backs, because this game's going to be won on the ground on Sunday. And then from there, who's going to be able to kind of dictate the kind of disrupt the flow of the offense and really get and rattle one of these quarterbacks and which one of these two quarterbacks are also going to be able to sit in the pocket long enough, take a hit, and deliver a big throw in that football game for a chance to win, right? Right now, I think Justin Fields has the advantage in that situation. I feel like Fields is able to kind of sit in the pocket a little bit longer than Lance and deliver a strike, even though Fields has a tendency to bail out the pocket. But in that weather, in that heavy rain like we're going to get on Sunday, I do expect the Bears to have a little bit of an advantage there, just because I trust guys like Montgomery and Herbert. I like the Bears' physicality up front on the offensive line to be able to push guys. I think it neutralizes a guy like Joey Bosa, who's going to really want to come off the edge against Braxton Jones, the rookie, and attack Justin Fields. And I like the grinded out wide receivers that they have. I mean, yes, Deebo Samuel is probably the best wide receiver weapon in this game, but outside of that, guys like Equanimeous St. Brown, Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, and Pringle, these guys are kind of grinded out short yardage receivers and let them, kind of get a quick throw and then let them try and eat after the catch,
Yeah, no question. As far as that offensive game plan is concerned, you got to lean on your strengths, right? And we've seen, especially in that preseason in the sort of dress rehearsal games, that it's going to be important to take advantage of Justin Fields' mobility and move the pocket and have him rolling out and be able to complete those play action rollouts or whether that or just naturally rolling out to his right or left and finding Cole Kmet or Darnell Mooney or Pringle, one of these guys on the outside, and just taking advantage of the opportunities that you have with that offense. And if it's a sloppy game like that, you're going to see a heavy dose of David Montgomery and on the other side with the 49ers, see a lot of Elijah Mitchell. It'd be big if Greg Kittle is indeed out, which I think it is. He is, as far as he has not been practicing since today. It looks like a groin injury that's nagging.
Yeah, I can't believe they put him out there in that weather with a groin injury, knowing that you have 16 games left in the season.
No. Yeah, it wouldn't make a ton of sense with a guy who was pretty up and down with production last year, just with health and quarterback troubles. Regardless, it seems kind of foolish just to bring him out. But with that said, too, it's a good opportunity for the Bears to have this Bears defense to build a lot of confidence in facing a younger quarterback. I know a lot of people are high on Trey Lance, just like they are with Justin Fields, but he hasn't proven anything yet. He's looked pretty good during preseason, and so is Justin Fields to that end. But it's going to be, as far as both quarterbacks are concerned, it's like the over-under in passing yards is 200 for both of them. And they'd be both hard-pressed to really, crack like 300 yards if it's a sloppy game like that, too, in the rain and then muggy conditions like that. It should be low scoring for sure. And it's really a coin flip to me as far as who has the edge here, because the 49ers certainly have those skill position players that you fawn over, like a Deebo Samuel, who can just play anywhere. But we'll see how they use Trey Lance. And I know that as far as the offensive line is concerned for the Bears, a big question is going to be how they handle Nick Bosa. And I know like Tom Thayer was rah-rahing, saying, you got to knock his dick into the dirt, like on first and second down right away. You got to control him. And I get it, to beat the man down. It's easier to say that than it is to do it, because we know both Bosas, him and Joey Bosa, are nasty, like is the best defensive ends in the league. They can take it over by themselves. And then the 49ers have a pretty good defense as a whole, as a unit, besides Bosa too. So I'm curious if they're up to the task there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit it on the head. Easier said than done. And I love somehow some of these old guys get on TV and they're like, back in my day, I'd knock his ass on the ground and say, hey, listen, that's an all-pro defensive end over there. Don't you wish that every single guy lining up against him would love to knock him on his ass? That's not, that's just that. That's easier said than done. That's like kind of saying, like, I just would take Steph Curry's knees out or something like that when he tries to pull up.
Yeah.
It's just completely unrealistic. But you are able to neutralize Bosa by running more counters at him, tossing the screen game. It's the screen game in there, getting the football quick out of Justin Fields' hands. And we're watching right now. I'm watching Bills Rams. Right now, Josh Allen is averaging 1.5 seconds from snap to ball out of his hands. You know how you neutralize a guy like Aaron Donald? You get that football out of his hands extremely quickly. The Bears have to also replicate that kind of same thing, right? So especially when it's going to be a little bit warmer and muggy at Soldier Field on Sunday. And then outside of that, you just, you kind of run plays and roll out away from him. But, overall, this is when I go back to Luke Getsy. I trust this guy. This guy's worked with, some of the great offensive play callers in the league, right? He's worked with, I forget the guy's name now, up in Green Bay, the head coach's name now. But he's had Aaron Rodgers with him for years. This is why I trust a guy like Luke Getsy, who, listen, he's had all summer to plan for week one, right? Matt LaFleur, thank you. He should be ready to roll and ready to really game plan against this 49ers defense. That's also missing one of their starting safeties as well. So it's going to be a fun matchup, definitely.
Be nice to leave with a win for sure. Oh boy, Gabe's calling. And and on the note of Matt LaFleur, he was talking about how the horn is so annoying with the Vikings. That just made me laugh thinking about that. And we can all side with that. It's just the fucking skull chant and everything that the Vikings have done recently. But I'm with you, Ross. It's basically a toss up as far as the Bears and both have sort of injury struggles of their own at certain positions, or not as much depth in certain positions that they're going to have to overcome. But in really rainy conditions like this, it's just any man's. It's just the better game plan should prevail, right? So Luke Getsy, it's going to be our first look at him for sure as far as the Bears play caller, and I'm curious to see what he draws up, because we were obviously very disappointed as a Bears fan base in what Matt Nagy did. And I think that Luke Getsy, you saw what he was able to do in Green Bay. And of course, it was a little more pass happy, but you also had very good running back and Aaron Jones to use. And then you had a lot of depth at wide receiver. When you have an all world quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, it's easy, right? But now we'll see how key he is to developing Justin Fields. But what I want to do next, Ross, is I want to go over, of course, the props for Sunday's game. And we'll start with what I said earlier with the quarterbacks. So we got Justin Fields. I'm just going by FanDuel here. But Justin Fields over under 201.5 yards passing for Sunday. What you got?
I would take the under right now just because of the weather situation. I just don't think that both of these quarterbacks are really going to be airing it out. I think Justin Fields will probably end up anywhere between 175 to 190 yards through the air. So I would take the under on that right now.
Trey Lance, a little better favored at 208.5. You take the under as well.
I'm also taking the under on Trey Lance as well. I don't think that I can't see it for him. I think he's actually going to struggle quite a bit in this first start. Listen, this guy's confidence has got to be in the toilet right now. They brought Jimmy G back into this situation. They don't make Trey Lance a starter. He was voted 7th overall on the team. So yeah, I would definitely take the under on that one.
David Montgomery, the over and under is 52.5. That seems a bit low. Wouldn't you think he'd get at least 60-some yards? I'm taking the over on that. By the way, I side with you on the unders there. But if it's going to be, especially 2 second-year quarterbacks like that, with a lot of action. But Montgomery, man, over all the way. Aldo gets it.
I want to say over as well. That makes me wonder though if Vegas thinks that we're going to get a true 2-back system, right? How much Khalil Herbert are we going to get? I'm not sure. Khalil Herbert really struggled in the preseason catching the football. He also struggled picking up the blitz, out the backfield. So I think this is David Montgomery's game. I would take the over in that one because I think the Bears are going to lean on him pretty heavy in the offense early on.
Elijah Mitchell, over under 58.5.
Taking the over, and I would throw in an anytime touchdown for him as well.
Ooh, to the way.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go to receiving yards before we move on. Deebo Samuel, over under 59.5.
Ooh. I'm going to take the under on that one.
He had his running, too.
I was going to say, I'm going to take the under on that one. I think if it was yards from scrimmage for Deebo, I would take definitely over 100 this Sunday. I would probably put him in like the 112, 115 range, but I'm going to take the under on the receiving yards. I just don't think any one of these 2 aerial assaults are really going to be able to put up a lot of yards in this game.
Darnell Mooney at 57.5 and Cole Kmet at 30.5.
I'm going to take the under. Oh, man. I'm going to take a slight under on Mooney, and I'm going to take the over on Kmet.
Take the over on Kmet.
Yeah.
The over-under, or I'm sorry, the over-under as far as the points total is concerned, 40.5. It certainly seems like that's a safe bet. The safest bet that you could couple here with the weather condition.
This has like 17 to 10 or 14 written all over it. I'm taking the under.
Could be a battle of kickers. We might not see any touchdowns. Who knows with these 2 teams?
Thank God Carlos Santos got his new grass.
That's a good thing. He got his new grass. He's been kicking over at Humboldt Park and Douglas Park and all the parks in Chicagoland. And and Robbie Gould gets to come back to Chicago, and he'll probably have a winning field goal in there. Final thoughts?
Side note.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Santos, not every year, Soldier Field gets resodded. Like much to do about nothing, man. Did he not think that they were going to get new grass? Every year, you get 4 concerts in the summer, and Elton John, and The Weeknd, and Beyonce, and Bad Bunny. They're all going to fuck it up. It's what they do every single year. And then a week before the season, they give you some brand new grass. And shout out to head coach Matt Eberflus. He was the one that asked for the Bermuda grass because that's what the Colts used in training camp when he was there. It's the same grass that they use in Kansas City right now and a couple other stadiums all over the league. But Kansas City will probably close mirror Chicago in terms of the climate. So they say that it's easily adaptable. It does need a lot of heat to be able to survive and thrive, but yes, Soldier Field is warmed at the underneath it, and they say it will turn a little brown, as we all do later in the year, but not to worry that they will add a little bit of kind of spray paint to it and some grout to keep it look like it's green, but it's completely playable for the whole year. The players enjoy it. So shout out to Soldier Field. It's not the Bermuda Triangle; it's the Bermuda grass. It sounds like a nice
Bermuda grass, baby.
Sounds like a nice sativa that you could pick up from a dispensary somewhere.
And Bermuda grass coming to Cresco Labs later on this year. I like that Bermuda grass. It mellows me out. I only smoke it on the weekends and the weeknights and sometimes in the mornings. So, anyways, as far as last thoughts on this matchup and anything we missed here, Ross, as far as this Bears Niners game is concerned, and anything we didn't touch on, we didn't touch about Dominique Foxworth take because it's not worth fucking talking about
It's
because
not.
he's just trying to get hits on his podcast.
Go
Justin
on,
Fields never request a fucking trade. He has no, like, why the fuck would he request a trade in his second year to just demand a trade? It was garbage. It was garbage. I hated that.
It was completely garbage. Yes, and he promptly went on like 4 different podcasts today to complain or not, to explain, excuse me, his his thoughts behind it. So that's really what he was just trying to do. He was just trying to get his week 1 pub out there. I put my Dominique Foxworth thoughts on Twitter today. People seem to enjoy it. It had over 300 likes and a bunch of retweets and stuff like that. But we're at a point right now where everybody's looking for engagements and clicks. And then after they get it, then the people that were complaining about it will hop in their mentions to try and get him on their podcast for, guess what? More engagement and clicks. So it's just one cyclical game right now that we're playing on Twitter, which, I'm not mad at it, which leads me to my last thought, which is, I'm just so happy that we can put all of this talk to rest finally, and we can actually just play a football game. And that's the best part.
Just
about
react to headlines.
Yes, absolutely. Just, however it goes each way, even though so now it shifts from the all the hot takes leading up to week 1 to all the hot takes coming from tonight's game and all the games on Sunday, right? Because whoever wins tonight's game, that one team is going to be done for the year, and the other team is going to they're definitely going to the Super Bowl. And that's just how all this works. So if the Bears, let's say they blow out the 49ers on Sunday, everybody's going to say this is the team that nobody believed in, and this is the dark horse and blah, 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 and they might lose 3 straight or whatever. Or if the Bears lose, then everybody's going to say, I told you so, I told you so. And they might go out and win their next 3 games. They might go out to Green Bay next week there on Sunday Night Football and beat those guys. You just never know. But I'm just happy that football's back.
I'm absolutely happy. And all the hype and all these random fucking takes can be put to bed here. And we finally do react to how this week 1 is going to play out. And we'll get to expectations in a second too. But as far as a pin on the Bears go, we obviously the week has been dominated not only with the Bears injury report and expectations for Bears Niners, but also about these renderings for a domed stadium and feeling like there's actually something to the Arlington Heights plans as far as the entertainment district and everything else that's going into this complex that's going to be pretty unbelievable. And what a waste Soldier Field will be. It will be home to some concerts for 3 months of the year, something like that. But it also opens the door for maybe a second NFL team. We'll talk about that. But did you have any impressions besides, obviously it should be a dome. There's no chance it wouldn't be a dome if you're going to build this, multi-billion-dollar stadium at this point. But it's interesting to picture it. Now you saw in the renderings how this will be, Wrigleyville meets, it's like almost like the Meadowlands, and it's just a Metro train ride away. It's going to be a pain to get to, but it's going to be pretty fucking nice if they pull this together in the next several years. Also, I don't know if Justin Fields will be around at that point, but
well, that's the thing is, I see a lot of people definitely get excited about what's going on in Arlington and the plans for the future, but also recognize that you're going to be waiting quite a bit of time for this whole thing to come together because number one, they're still in a purchase agreement, right? Which means that they are in a preliminary phase right now. They're assessing the property. They have to assess the land to see if it's even structurally okay to build on it. And then from there, they have to actually buy the property. And then from there, they have to actually raise the funds to start building on the property. I'm sure the stadium will come first, right? So just raising money alone is going to take quite a bit of time because they don't want to use public funding. I think they don't want to use public. I think they're telling you they don't want to use public funding because they can't. I don't think the state of Illinois is going to give them public funding at this point in time. So that's why they're telling you that part. And then from there, that takes time to raise $5 billion. The NFL is only going to kick in about $200 million to help you out with that, which means that's still quite a bit of money for you to raise. And the Castles, quite frankly, they don't have that kind of cash on hand. So they're going to have to raise it in other different ways, loans, promising people to be able to build around it and build their businesses around it and raise capital in that way. But all in all, this stadium could take another 6 years to come to fruition. And then for the entire project, for the whole entertainment district to be built, we could be talking 10 years from now. So, while it's exciting to kind of look into the future and kind of see what's going to come on the horizon, I think we also just need to focus on the present for the moment because, we don't know if Justin Fields will still be the quarterback at that time. Hopefully he is. We don't know if Matt Eberflus is the head coach. Hopefully he is. We don't know if Ryan Poles will still be the general manager. Hopefully he is. Yes, Bears master plan is the same group that developed SoFi. But the thing about SoFi, and if you've ever been out to that area, it was desolate before, and it was easily able to be put up there pretty quickly. And even still, that stadium took a couple of years to build. Arlington Heights is extremely residential. And anytime you work with a community like that, which has a lot of homes, you've got to take your time in how you're just extracting this monstrosity of a thing around people that have to live there and go to work every day, and their kids are there, and how does that affect the community, and so on and so forth. So this is going to take a little bit of time. Also, the Rams and that ownership group print money. They print money over there. They had zero problems raising funds. This is more of a mom and pop group with the Bears. And Caskies are not quite what the Rams ownership is. So this is going to be a little bit of a different approach in terms of how they get the money and how they can build that property. But it's still fun. It's still exciting. I'm excited for Bears fans. And, I guess when I'm 50 years old, we can go out to whatever they're going to call it, Portillo's Stadium, Garrett's Popcorn Field,
Ooh.
Lou Malnati's
Al Stadium.
Lou Malnati's Entertainment District. I don't know, whatever the hell you're going to call it.
Oh my God.
By then it'll
that's
probably
definitely
be
a topic for next.
yeah. By then it'll probably be like Virginia McCaskey Field at FanDuel Park, right? Like it's something really sentimental that is completely ruined by something extremely corporate.
It'll be the Metadome or so. Yeah, exactly. Virginia McCaskey Field and the fucking Metadome, the Oculus Dome, something ridiculous like that. Yeah, you echoed everything I thought about this stage of the planning for the stadium. And there's just a lot of moving pieces. And the biggest one is certainly the funding right now. And you mentioned a part that is going to be huge is can they really build, the spec, the entertainment district, how they want, based on the plans and how it's laid out currently. I think the Dome, there's no doubt, put billions into that. But outside of that, what's the scope of the entertainment district going to be like? And I know that, of course, nobody likes to hear that the public should kick in for this massive stadium and entertainment complex. The only way they can spend it is your property values are going to go up. That's about it at this point. And certainly I know, for every person that's like detracting from this idea of Arlington Park entertainment district sports complex, there are a lot of people who are going to be proponents of it, and certainly they're going to find a way. There's a will, there's a way, but it's very early on. I know that the Bears were super non-committal on it, as far as they were saying, quote, "We remain under contract to purchase the property, but there are conditions that must be met in order to be in a position to close. If we do close on the property, it does not guarantee we will develop it. They could not develop it to the scope, these renderings that they have right now. But it's a long way off. It's like Ross said, when we're 10 years from now taking the Metro over to see Bears games in Arlington Heights, it could be something. Then yeah, bring Bradley, I'll bring Lily, and it'll be a blast. They can drive us home.
I was going to say, they'll be teenagers. They can drive us home by then.
Yeah. All right, let's talk the rest of the NFL. As we talked about to begin, 10-0 is now the score of the Bills-Rams game, and the Bills look like they're in pretty good control. And there's just a ton of storylines as I look over just the week one schedule. And, just overarching to me is certainly like how these contenders are going to follow up. Certainly these two, the Bills came so close last year and had a hell of a playoff game against Kansas City, and it just had to reevaluate the overtime rules after that game last year. And now you see the Rams went all the way and beat the Bengals in a pretty great Super Bowl in LA in the fashion that they did. And they got a young coach. They got a pretty great quarterback in Matt Stafford and great wide receivers, great weapons, the best defensive player in the game. Who's to say they wouldn't repeat? And certainly we'll see what they're made of in this game against the Bills and another team who's favored with the Buffalo Bills. But that's something to keep an eye on there. And then outside of that, we're seeing Aaron Rodgers and now he's lost Devontae Adams. And will he continue to be the power of the NFC that he has been for years now? I mean, certainly I think a lot of people would put him to be at the top of the NFC North, regardless of who he's throwing to. Could be anybody off the street. You're still probably going to favor him over the other three teams in the NFC North. But you're looking at all the teams like the Saints that are retooling. You're looking at the Eagles, certainly to me, how they have revamped their roster and Jalen Hurts is the guy and how they might actually be a contender. You look further in the NFC and I think a lot of people have expectations that are pretty high for the Vikings and then the Buccaneers and the Cowboys. That's a great Sunday night game to have in week 1. And Tom Brady, can he continue to play at the level he has? And at what point are the Cowboys going to get over that jump? So, as far as those first week 1 headlines, what do you got, Ross? What are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, you hit it on the head with all of those. I think we get a great game, an NFC North divisional game in Minnesota, Vikings, Packers. I actually think the Vikings can beat that game, can beat them in that game. I think the Vikings very well could win the division this year. I just don't know how the Packers are going to be able to march up and down the field and score like they used to with that kind of wide receiver group. And now you see that Allen Lazard is hurt and might not play in week 1, which means Sammy Watkins is your number 1 receiver. Woof. I don't care how good Aaron Rodgers is. Sammy Watkins is your number 1. It's just not getting it done, in my opinion. And then also, I think that, like you said, the Sunday night game is going to be important. Those are two teams that are trying to be there later on in the season. I think the Cowboys have to win they have to win as many of those games as possible because, like you said, the Eagles are coming on. The Eagles probably have one of the better rosters in the NFC. It's just a quarterback that everybody's concerned about, right? But if Jalen Hurts can take a next step forward, there's no reason why the Eagles can't make a Super Bowl push in what I think is a very weak NFC. Certainly the AFC is a lot more top heavy than the NFC, right? So, and then from there, what happens? I think all eyes are going to be early on in the AFC West. Which one of those teams are going to kind of fall behind early? Because if you do, you start falling behind 1 or 2 games in that division, and you could be toast at 6 weeks into the season. It's just that competitive. It's going to be that cutthroat. But it's going to be fun. We've got a great slate of games this Sunday. It's going to be exciting to see who's going out there. Lamar Jackson is another guy I'm keeping an eye on right now because he put a deadline to get a contract done by tomorrow. But if they can't get it done by tomorrow, he's going to be going into a season without a brand new contract, which I think that he's going to go kind of scorched earth to prove and show everybody that he deserves a new deal. But then you just hope that a guy like that doesn't get hurt and lose out on quite a bit of money. But if he stays healthy, I think the Ravens are a very dangerous football team, and I like them to win the AFC North because Deshaun Watson will be out for most of the season.
Yeah, looking at that AFC North, it'd be hard-pressed to not put them second to Joe Burrow and the Bengals. And again, talking about the reigning NFC and AFC champs and talking about the Bengals and the Rams, Joe Burrow is not going anywhere. He certainly looks like the heir to Tom Brady or Drew Brees or Peyton Manning, these great quarterbacks that we've talked about, but he's also struggled with injuries. So he's definitely got to stay healthy. Same could be said with the Lamar Jackson and how he certainly needs to stay healthy and playing for a new contract. He's got to ball out. And his team certainly depends on him. As much as there's high expectations for this Ravens defense, it's going to come back to whatever chemistry he can build. It's a quarterback-driven league, so I'm very curious with all these new quarterbacks in new places, especially when you talk about Matt Ryan now at the helm with the Colts. You talk about Baker Mayfield going to Carolina. You talk about, Russell Wilson in a different uniform, finally to the Denver Broncos. And then not to be forgotten, I feel like certainly should be Carson Wentz in Washington. But I feel like those first three guys, one of them has a good chance. I think Colts, as far as the AFC is concerned, AFC South, they got a good chance to win that division and build on a lot of success, like the legacy that Eberflus left as far as the pieces are there, and then building this offseason as far as those are concerned. Any of those quarterbacks, stand out to you, Ross, as far as having a better season than the others?
I like the Matt Ryan situation because, listen, the infrastructure is there. I like that offense a lot. I think Frank Wright is a very good coach. I think he's a very good offensive coach. Remember, this is a guy who was a vital cog to the Eagles winning a Super Bowl. He just had a complete bomb in Carson Wentz, and you can see it because they shipped him out of there pretty quickly. And listen, I know Matt Ryan, his best days are behind him. He doesn't have a lot left in the tank, but here's a guy who can still get the football out pretty quickly. He still has good accuracy. And I love the weapons they have. Mo Alley Cox is an emerging tight end. I love Michael Pittman Jr. I think he's going to be a stud wide receiver this year with Matt Ryan. And of course, they've got Jonathan Taylor, who's just an absolute beast and stud at running back. So, and most importantly, that division is completely up for grabs, right? Because, Ryan Tannehill, I'm not a big believer anymore, especially now that they got rid of A.J. Brown. Robert Woods is their number one receiver. But that's Robert Woods coming off a torn ACL last year. And then you got guys like, down in Houston, Texas and stuff like that, Davis Mills, right? So I really like what Matt Ryan is walking into in Indy. And I think that they should be able to take that division, no problem.
Yeah, I like the prospect of Matt Ryan in a new team. It's kind of like what Matt Stafford did last season, right? He's going to be kind of reborn in a Colts jersey at this point, and he had a ton of success as far as he's the best quarterback since Michael Vick in an Atlanta Falcons jersey. Had a lot of great years, led them to a Super Bowl, and then of course they coughed it up to the Patriots and that epic meltdown. But now he gets a really fresh start with the Colts in a franchise that is not too far removed from being pretty good. We talk about when they had Peyton Manning there, and they had a lot of success under him, of course, and beating the Bears 2006 Super Bowl. So there's something to be said with a fresh start there. I know that I'll certainly have my popcorn ready to watch Baker Mayfield take on his old team.
Mm-hmm.
But, you talked about, or we were talking about these divisions, and the AFC West is just stacked. And you could look at the AFC and NFC West. The NFC West has been as entertaining as they come as far as the NFC divisional matchups are concerned. The NFC North is up there too. But man, that West now, especially that you've added Russell Wilson to the mix. He's entered the chat, and you have Pat Mahomes, you have Derek Carr, and you have Justin Herbert. Like, those divisional games are going to be electric, and you would be hard pressed to not see at least one of those teams in the AFC Championship, and if not the Super Bowl. I know that Russ came out recently, if not today, earlier this week, about how the Seahawks tried to trade him before. So he's got a little fire under him, and he certainly has some weapons. He had a down year last year, but you saw the success he was able to get with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Why couldn't he do it with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and all these guys around him in a pretty solid Broncos roster? But it's like you said too, Ross, with the NFC, as far as they're concerned, it's really like the Rams and Tampa and then a bunch of teams. You're like, I don't know who could be competing outside of these teams. It could be Arizona. They could take that next step. You might see Minnesota take that step, or the Eagles outside of that. But I'd be hard pressed to put anybody besides the Rams out there to repeat as NFC champions, because they've been there before and they've been contenders every year.
Absolutely.
Sure. Well, Ross, we've come to the end of the show, and shout out. We haven't talked a lot about the Chicago Sky fam and how this is a dynasty in the making here with Candace Parker and companies, and they look like they might be able to repeat. I know they're tied 2-2 right now in their series. I think it resumes tomorrow.
It's tonight. It's tonight.
That's a tough spot to be in, or it's tonight. I'm sorry, it's opposite. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so it's tonight. Opposite this matchup, it's something that people should be flipping over to between what you're seeing with the Bills and Rams, and now they're into the third, and this is their season on the line, but it's something else, man. It's nice to see in really down seasons for the Chicago sports teams that have dominated the headlines, of course, in the White Sox and Cubs and Bears and the Bulls. Bulls are kind of turning that corner. Bears are still, it's up into interpretation how they're going to be, and then the baseball teams just continue to disappoint. There's nothing you can do about that between injury and ownership. But the WNBA and the Sky, they've been doing it right, man, and so they got a chance to go back, and that would certainly be good. I know that you're right by the Wintrust Arena, and you should be having season tickets at this point, Ross.
I should actually. You know what? Actually, in the Wintrust Arena is a beautiful building. It's right in the middle.
Nice arena.
Yeah, right in the middle of Chicago, right in the South Loop area. And they're up 45-42 right now in the third quarter. The Sky are, but it's a packed house. It's been a packed house since they went on this championship run, which is really cool to see. I think it's great for Chicago. I think it's great for the WNBA that kind of needs this jolt. I think, Candace Parker is an amazing athlete who represents the Chicagoland area very well. It was really cool to see last week in one game, in one night, you saw Serena Williams kind of rally to win a match. And then you saw Candace Parker have like 26 points and 13 rebounds. And it's just like these two women who, are a little bit older and definitely past their prime, but they're still gutting it out and playing at a high level, and their mothers and just all that they have going on in their personal lives, and still to be ambassadors to their sports and just absolute legends. It is really fun to see. As for my baseball team, the White Sox keep hanging in there. Key series in Oakland this weekend. I feel like they need to win 3 out of 4 games against the Athletics to even stay in this thing. But if they don't, I'm going to put a fork in them for like the 7th time in the last 6 weeks. They're like the Undertaker. Every time I try and kill them, they keep just waking back up and coming back to life. Which, I would love to see playoff baseball again. I would love to go to a playoff baseball again this year, even if I feel like they're not going to win the World Series. But I hope they do it. But this is a fun time because also we get the Bulls coming back in a month. This is kind of year where the weather is going to get a little chilly, but that's okay. Sports are really going to ramp up. We're going to have a plethora of options every single night, and I can't wait.
Yes, sir. I mean, basketball still is king here. That's for damn sure. It may be football season, but the Bulls are around the corner, and now, we'll hope for the Sky to pull this one out and continue to advance. Ross, have you caught up on the House of Dragons, or are you switched over to the Lord of the Rings series at this point?
I am not caught up on either. I'm trying to get there, but I went to Montreal last weekend, as you know. Shout out to Montreal.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the French people there. Beautiful city. Thank you for your hospitality. I had a blast. You took a lot of my money, which you always do. But because of that, I'm a little bit behind. But I will. Tomorrow night is like it's fantasy night, not in a kinky way. It's going to be my wife is out of town, as we talked about at the top of the show,
maybe.
And I am going to pour myself a Manhattan, or maybe 2 or 3. And I'm going to watch 2 episodes in a row of House of Dragon and 1 episode of the of the game of the Lord of the Rings. I'm all immersed in these fantasy
Rings of
shows.
Power.
Starting tomorrow night. I can't wait. This is going to be a very exciting Friday night for me.
Yeah, I haven't. Sounds like it, man. Don't fuck with Ross on his Friday Fantasy Manhattan night. And I haven't seen any House of the Dragon yet. I need to get on that. But of course, when I saw that the Rings of Power had come out, I had to to go to it pretty quickly. I was a big fan of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's just some of the best movies I've seen, and it was pretty great. And I was curious to see, again, like we talked about, how everybody's betting big on these streaming fantasy series at this point. Man, it's going to be something to see. It was a good premiere for the Rings of Power. You're establishing the cast and the men and the elves and the hobbits and all of it's very similar to Lord of the Rings and that first one, that first movie with Fellowship of the Rings. But I mean, between the two, you're gonna have something tomorrow night. You're gonna have an enjoyable Fantasy Friday, Ross.
I can't wait.
It's pretty great.
65 inches of TV, crank up the Sonos,
Oh,
light the candles,
boy.
and pull the recliner up on the sofa, and I am all in. Dragons and elves, give it all to me.
Dragons and elves and more, and some subtle and not so subtle. You won't get it from the more wholesome Lord of the Rings, but I'm sure you get some gratuitous nudity in the House of D.
Yes.
So Amazon is trying a sports comedy show, this NFL recap show with Taron Killam, who I cannot stand because he's just this huge fucking Rams fan, and I never really found him that funny. That's just my take there.
Yeah.
Would you tune into that, Ross?
No. No. Listen, I don't mind a little comedy with my sports, but I prefer it more in a podcast form. There are a couple podcasts that I listen to that kind of blend that in. Typically on my drive out to Skokie every day and stuff like that. But I'm not going to stick around and watch that. I'm not a big fan of like the Rob Riggle stuff on Fox and any of that stuff. Just give me the.
It's just filler.
Yeah, just give me the content. Just give me the actual sport itself.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time and a place for the comedy, but also, I just don't want anything to do with that. It could be a very hard pass as far as that is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Ross, I know you're super sad. I was driving around doing errands this morning and hearing about how Prince Charles was rushing to wherever Balmoral, is that what it's called? The town, and it basically knew that this was these doctors are concerned about the Queen's health. She's fucking 96. She's hung out since the Second World War. Like it looked like the end, and sure enough, gone at the age of 96. And look, man, I mean, what a life! Certainly from that aspect, really cool, really hip lady, man, really hip lady, but lived a hell of a life. Met, I think it was like every president except for LBJ or something like that, and only had one dumbass president walk in front of her and show up late, Donald Trump. And really a spectacular run as the Queen, and this really, like, of course, she launched the obsession for whatever for a fucking country like the U.S. was, liberated themselves from Britain, and we still obsess about who Pippa Middleton's fucking and what Meghan Markle feels about A, B, and C. Like, dude, it just started this whole royal family obsession that a lot of people have. So I don't have much to say on that. I don't really fuck with the royal family. I don't care about those headlines. But she, but rest in peace, Queen Elizabeth. I mean, she lived a hell of a life, like I said, and there's not much else I could say about that.
She lived and she died, and
she lived and she died.
We all press on. So that's about all I have for that.
You got no. That's it, Ross. Nothing on the Queen. Oh my God.
It's about all. I can go a little bit further. I'm gonna bite my words. The jokes today on Twitter were hilarious, though. Keep getting those jokes.
They were funny.
Keep getting those jokes off.
Keep getting those jokes.
I can't wait. I'm taking a trip to London and Paris in January to go see the Bulls play in Paris. And it'll be in a non-queen monarchy, right? Out in Britain there. That'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, people who are 96 years old. I mean, what else do I have to say about that, right?
That's pretty much at this point. Had a hell of a career as the Queen, yes. And then of course it's nuts. Just the moving pieces, like after the fact that the Queen dies, though, how they're just I think they stopped comedy programming and shit like that. They stopped races in the UK. They won't. The funeral is going to take 10 days, and like the inauguration of Prince Charles is going to take almost a year. Like it's nuts, and they have to change the currency. Britain's different, man.
Yeah. America lost their true queen when Betty White passed away. So,
for sure. 100%, 100%. Parting thoughts, Ross. Oh, what about Harry Styles and how he spit on Chris Pine? Did you see any of that?
I did see that. Most importantly, that movie is getting some of the worst reviews of all time. But
it looked like shit. Yeah.
But shout out Florence Pugh because she looks absolutely amazing as always. I'm a big Florence Pugh fan. Can we make her the queen?
Make her the queen. Yeah. She's not attending the LA premiere or whatever. Paris. I don't know. She's just that whole cast just seemed like it was ready to implode. Olivia Wilde and her affair with Harry Styles and shit. Nick Kroll's just hanging out though. Shout out Nick Kroll. Yep. Nick Kroll just killing it.
It's like a weird Ted Lasso episode.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah. It almost feels that way. All right. We're about out of time here. Thanks to everybody at the Barroom Network for tuning in and supporting the show here. If you've missed any of the show, remember it will be live on YouTube as soon as this wraps up. It'll also be on Spotify, iTunes. All our previous shows are there. If you've missed them, follow me at The Real Evan Mack and follow Ross at Ross Reed.
Yes,
we got to get a score for the Bears game before we sign off, and I will lead off. Beauty before age, as they say. I don't think they say that, but reverse that. I'm going Bears. Yeah, I'm with you earlier. I'm going Bears 10, Niners 13.
Bears 15.
Sad.
Bears 15, Niners 13. Sloppy, ugly game.
Bears squeak it out, though.
Bears squeak it out. Yes.
Let's go.
That's
Ross
right.
is saying he want to know to start the year.
Go.
I'm the eternal pessimist.
Yep.
For now, everybody, be good to each other out there. We say deuces. So long.
Peace.